very happy to bring up this next woman. Former syndicated columnist and editorial writer, former executive director of both the Florida and Utah state affiliates of the American Civil Liberties Union, a public advocate for church-state separation, a whole host of civil liberties and civil rights causes, as well as economic, racial justice, and myriad progressive causes. She is currently the CEO of the Richard Dawkins Foundation for Reason and Science in Washington, D.C. Please welcome Robyn Blumner, ladies and gentlemen.
I am so excited to be here, and I have a little story for you. So, when I was 11 or 12 years old, I reached the age of reason. And what that means is I needed a reason to buy what adults around me were selling. That's when God's days were numbered. I became an atheist, and I started saying so. And with that simple act, I became persona non grata in my own country. Even the Pledge of Allegiance recited every day in school was a reminder to me that you had to believe in God to be a patriot. So after you reach the age of reason, you enter the age of discretion. And that's when you learn to keep quiet about things that make other people uncomfortable. So I became a quiet atheist. It wasn't until 2004, when I was a syndicated newspaper columnist in Florida, that something happened to make me a little less quiet. An atheist was giving the invocation at a Tampa City Council meeting, and 3 council members stormed out in protest rather than hear him speak. One of them said that listening to an atheist even one time could unleash what he called a snowball effect, whatever that means. And he compared it to having unprotected sex. Yes, he was an idiot. So at that point, I was done being quiet. I wrote a column. It was titled, "I'm an Atheist, So What?" And this is what I said. It's not just God that I can't fathom. I also reject the existence of Satan or any form of afterlife beyond the redistribution of the body's matter. In my book, there are no ghosts, golems, angels, or spirits. I don't believe in psychic power, astrology, or predestination. And forget about karma, kismet, or crystals. In my view, the soul does not exist outside a functioning brain. Nothing was meant to be, and things that seem inexplicable are not miracles or paranormal experiences. They are simply not yet explained. My faith is in mankind and the marvels accomplished by human ingenuity and drive. And why that makes me a pariah to the Tampa City Council is beyond my understanding. But it certainly says more about them than it does me. So after that column ran, I received hundreds of emails from across the country. Now, certainly some of them were filled with hate, and there were people who said that they would pray for me, to which I gave the traditional atheist answer, which is, and I'll think for you. But 90% of the letters were exuding gratitude to me for saying what they could not. One man wrote that in 70 years of reading newspapers, he had never before seen his views represented in the mainstream press. Never. So it's 12 years later, and you know what? Atheist views are still silent, but the other side has only grown louder. According to Ted Cruz, Anyone who doesn't start their day on his knees praying isn't fit to be commander-in-chief. And Marco Rubio says that when civil law and God's law come into conflict, God's rules always win. Well, never mind how ludicrous and scary that is. What does it say about atheists? It says we don't count. It says we shouldn't be president. It says we should be excluded from the public policy table. And guess what, folks? We are. There are millions and millions and millions of atheists in America, but we are invisible. We have no political power. We can be dismissed by politicians with utter impunity, and there is no political cost for it. And why is that? Because we are too quiet. We need to start making some noise, people. Can you make some noise? Richard Dawkins made some noise 10 years ago when he wrote The God Delusion. He put his scientist's mind to the issue of faith, looked for evidence of God, and found none. His books helped millions to see this truth for themselves. But Richard Dawkins did not stop there. He founded the Richard Dawkins Foundation for Reason and Science. The foundation's mission is to promote reason, science, and secular values. And we will soon be merging with the Center for Inquiry, making our combined organization the largest of its kind in the United States. And I am now the CEO of the Center for Inquiry. Thank you. The Richard Dawkins Foundation works to help people understand the truth of science and the importance of the scientific method and critical thinking. We know if people sought out evidence to support what they know, they would no longer be prisoners to the religious fairy tales masquerading as sacred truth that they were fed as children. But how do we get there? Well, number one, we have to make it okay to be an atheist in America. That's why the Richard Dawkins Foundation has helped launch the Openly Secular campaign, a campaign that borrows from the successful strategy of the LGBT movement. Openly Secular asks you to tell your friends, your neighbors, your coworkers, and your loved ones who you are. It worked for gays and lesbians, it can work for us. So find the Richard Dawkins Foundation table in the exhibitor's tent over there and make an Openly Secular video. We have teams of videographers waiting to make you a secular star. Second, we need to make Americans smarter about science. We have to end these ridiculous debates about whether human life evolved or God put us here. Gee, wonder why God gave us a tailbone but no tail. Do you realize that 43% of Americans say that human beings arrived on this earth fully formed within the last 10,000 years? It's crazy. Science is our future, and we're rejecting science in large numbers. But we can change that by teaching children the rudiments of evolution early in their education. The Richard Dawkins Foundation has launched the Teacher Institute for Evolutionary Science to teach middle school science teachers how to teach evolution. In workshops across the country, we are giving teachers the knowledge, tools, and confidence to teach evolution. And we are helping teachers fight against parents and school officials who want little Johnny and little Janie to remain ignorant of science in the name of religion. So join the Richard Dawkins Foundation, become a member, and be a counterweight to the fierce, religiously inspired ignorance that grips this country. Become part of something smart and something big and lasting. I mean, you're already smart, you're here. Now become part of something really big and lasting. And whatever you do, remember to make some noise. Thank you.
Robyn Blumner. Robyn Blumner, ladies and gentlemen.